Hurricanes fans, where you at? Miami Hurricane fans love Uncle Lou. Well, guess what, Hurricanes fans? You're in luck today. Because you're going to have about 30 minutes worth of Uncle Lou talking about your Miami Hurricanes. That's right. It's time for the 2020 Miami Hurricanes official Uncle Lou preview and game-by-game prediction. Hurricanes fans, are you ready? Let's go. Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on YouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And in addition to that as well, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. Some of them are even watchable. You can let me know in the comment section down below at the end of this video whether you think this one is watchable or not. Hey, share this video. Do me a favor. Share this video somewhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go to your neighbor's house. Knock on his door. Tell him to watch this video. I've set a goal for myself. I'm trying to get to 40,000 subscribers by the time the season starts. Now, that's a lofty goal, high expectations. I can't get there by myself. If you guys could help me out, I would really appreciate it. I only do this once a year where I set a goal like this and ask for you guys to help me. So thumbs up the video. Share it somewhere if you enjoy it. It would mean a lot to me. All right, here we go. The 2020 Miami Hurricanes preview and prediction video. This one comes as a suggestion from Jordan C. over on the Uncle Lou Patreon page. So Jordan, really appreciate you supporting the channel like that, sir, by joining up on the Patreon page. It means the world to me. I hope you enjoy this preview and prediction video for the Miami Hurricanes. Don't forget, if you're a member of the Uncle Lou Patreon page, make sure you go over there. The most recent post says prediction videos. Leave me a comment on that post letting me know which team it is that you want to see me do a preview and prediction for. I'm doing all the suggestions over on the Patreon page first before I move on to suggestions from other places or teams that I just still have to do that I haven't done yet. If you want to sign up, just click the link. It's in the description of this video. It says support the channel. It'll take you to the Patreon page. You can get yourself signed up. All right, here we go. Brief 2019 recap. Then I'm going to talk about the roster in 2020 on offense and defense. Then I'm going to put the 2020 schedule up on the screen, and we're going to do a game-by-game prediction and come up with an overall win-loss record for Miami in 2020. I'm going to tell you who they're going to beat and who they're going to lose to. Start last year, 2019, of course, was MANNY DIAZ first year. He comes in to replace Mark Richt, who either quit, got fired, or retired, depending on who you believe and who you ask. But the point is, 2018 was his last year. He's gone. You bring MANNY DIAZ in. High expectations. MANNY DIAZ, a very popular person at Miami and in South Beach and South Florida in general. Very well known. The hire was received almost universally well. People liked the hire. They're in love with MANNY DIAZ down there. Now, that was before last season. Not a good first season for MANNY DIAZ or for anyone, really. It was bad in multiple ways. You had 6-6, 6-7 after the bowl loss. You lost to Louisiana Tech in a bowl game. Didn't even manage to score a point there. You lost to FIU last year. You had back-to-back losses to Duke and Georgia Tech in the season. It just was not a good season. And it seemed, honestly, to get worse as the season went along. The only saving grace you have really from the 2019 season is that as bad as you were, you managed to beat Florida State. And at Miami, that's goal number one, really on the list, beat Florida State. I mean, I know national title. You got to save it, please. But still, I'm saying beating Florida State, still a big deal at Miami. So 6-6, 6-7 after the bowl loss in MANNY DIAZ's first year. History has not been kind to Miami, at least not recent history, right? They did win 10 games in 2017. I believe that was Mark Richt's second year, right? Oh, yeah, Mark Richt's second year. Got to 10 wins. You have to go all the way back to 2003, though, to find another 10-win season for Miami. So, in the last 17 years, one 10-win season. Not good. And that was their last year in the Big East. So, they've been in the ACC since 2004. That's 16, 17 years they've been in the ACC. They've won 10 or more games once, and that was in 2017. They have one bowl win since 2006. That is just hard to believe. Hard to believe that there's any team anywhere that has one bowl win in the last 14 years. much less that it's Miami. That is just really bad. That was the Russell Athletic Bowl, right? You've won the division one time in the ACC, no ACC titles. You were dominating the Big East. You moved to the ACC after the 2003 season. You've yet to win it. You only won the division once. That was the 2017 season where you got the 10 wins. And here's the really sort of head-scratching part about the fact that Miami, not only that they've only won the division once, but why are they not dominating this division? The other division is where Clemson and Florida State are. So, because, people say, well, Miami hadn't won the ACC, but Florida State was on a run for a while. And now Clemson's on a run. Okay, fine. Forget about winning the ACC. You can't even win your side of the division. You've done it once in 16 years. And listen to these teams that are in your division. You, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Duke, Virginia, Pitt, and UNC. Again, FSU and Clemson are in the other division. So you can't even dominate the bad side of the division, winning it only once. It's just been really bad for Miami. You guys already know that. They're trying to get this turned around. It's been a coaching carousel there really since joining the ACC. Manny Diaz going into year 2. Prior to that, you had Mark Richt for 3 years. Prior to that, you had, was it Al Golden for 5 years? You had Randy Shannon for 4 years. And then Coker was the coach when you transitioned from the Big East into the ACC. He was there 6 years. So you've just had a hard time finding a coach that either wants to stick around or that will stick around since joining the ACC. It just hasn't been good. Now let's talk about the offense coming up this year for Miami. What'd they lose from last year? What do they have coming back? What about recruiting, transfers, all that kind of thing? We're going to take a look at that now. In terms of recruiting, Miami has recruited pretty well. Miami is one of the most talented teams in America in terms of they're one of the most disappointing talent to record. Look at how they've recruited here. It's not like they can't recruit. 2020, they finished 13th in the nation. That was good for second in the ACC. 2019, the worst recruiting class of the last 4. They were 27th. That was good for 4th in the ACC. 2018, they were 8th, second in the ACC. And 2017, they were 12th, second in the ACC. So you got 3 top 15 classes in the last 4 years, yet you had a losing record last year at 6 and 7. So the talent is not the talent doesn't equal the performance we end up seeing on the field. Underdevelopment, players not living up to potential. It's just been a mess at Miami. The good news is there is talent on this team. You don't recruit like this and then have no talent. So the talent is there. Let's look at the offense. Dan Enos gone. He was your offensive coordinator last year. An utter failure. Just an epic failure of biblical proportions on offense last year. How is it possible that your offense was worse in 2019 than it was in 2018? 2018, your offense was horrendous. New coach, you say, well, he's a defensive coach. We better bring in Dan Enos, the guy who can run an offense. You somehow managed to turn a really bad offense in 2018 into an even worse offense in 2019. So you get rid of him. He's gone. You bring in Rhett Lashley from SMU, another guy that looks as though he can run an offense. Of course, it looked that way for Enos, too. We'll see if Lashley can have better luck this year than Enos had last year. He's going to run a spread offense, whereas Miami really, for a long time now, has been running more of a pro-style offense. Lashley is a spread guy, so he's going to switch things up offensively, at least in terms of philosophy, and go to more of a spread attack, which may end up benefiting Miami because, like I mentioned, they have recruited well. There are some really good skill players offensively for the University of Miami, and we'll talk about a few of them in a minute, but let's start with quarterback first, where, of course, you bring in transfer from Houston, grad transfer, DERIQ King, widely considered the best available transfer quarterback on the market. Overall, he lands at Miami. It will be the absolute shock of the century to me if for some reason DERIQ King does not start every game this year, unless, God forbid, there's some sort of injury. To me, DERIQ King is clearly not only the best quarterback on Miami's roster right now, probably better than any quarterback Miami has had in quite some time. Now, he's undersized, he's short, but again, he's a runaround guy. Bringing him in, plus to switch to a spread offense under Lashley, I think is a good combination for Miami's offense. Now, they got to put it together. We have to see it on the field. It's hard to really buy into Miami at this point before we actually see it on the field because we've just been told for so long that they're so close and this is the year, and they just continue to come out and underperform. Like I mentioned, only one 10-win season since 2003. Pitiful. 110-win season. You got to get better. So quarterback, I think a huge improvement this year over what you had last year. It's not that I think N'Kosi Perry is bad or Jaron Williams is terrible. They're not the worst quarterbacks in America, but they just were not getting the job done. DERIQ King, miles ahead of them. I don't see any way possible the quarterback for Miami this year is anybody other than DERIQ King. That's what I expect to see. When you talk about the running backs, Cameron Harris, we talk about the skill position players. Miami can recruit skill position players. I mean, recruiting is never an issue for Miami. Look where they're located. You can throw a rock in Miami and hit high 4 and 5-star athletes, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, those sorts of things. Cameron Harris, a good enough back to get the job done. Tight end, Brevin Jordan, probably the best player on your team, in my opinion, at least offensively. He might be the best tight end in America. I haven't looked at any tight end lists that anyone has put out or whatever. Tight ends that I watched last year, though, that are coming back this year, if Brevin Jordan's not on the very top of the list, he's very close. This guy is borderline uncoverable when he's on. He's that good. Definite NFL player, probably the best player on your offense. Having him is huge. For quarterbacks love a security blanket. Tight ends that can catch and run routes are great security blankets. He could have a big year this year under this new offense. The question for Miami offensively, outside of, I guess maybe there's some quarterback issues in terms of how is DERIQ King going to play in the ACC versus when he was at Houston. So maybe some people are waiting to see that. But to me, the biggest question about Miami's offense, without doubt, is the offensive line. The worst in America last year, I think Miami's offensive line was in the Power 5. There were some other teams that have struggles. There were some other teams definitely that don't have great offensive lines. There were other teams that struggled along the offensive line. I don't know that there was another Power 5 team in America that had a worse offensive line last year, though, than Miami. They gave up 51 sacks. That was the most in America. Now, you get the top 6 of your offensive linemen from last year are returning. So you have a ton of experience along the offensive line, and you bring in a new offensive line coach, too. So the questions I have is, was the offensive line really that bad last year? Was it coaching? Was it philosophy? Was it scheme, right? You're switching from a pro style to a spread. Can these linemen run the spread offense? Could be they're better at running a spread offense than it is pro style. These are things we're going to find out. But for anyone to think that Miami is going to have a dominant offensive line this year, hard for me to go down that road. Not to say that they can't be good, not to say that they can't improve over last year, but the point is they were so bad last year. I think they got a transfer they brought in too. I think he came from Houston as well, actually. Wouldn't surprise me if maybe he supplants one of those starters there. But the point is, could Miami have a good offensive line in 2020? Yes. But that falls into the category, for me at least, of I have to see it before I believe it thing. So I have some serious issues about how well Miami can do along the offensive line. And unfortunately, like we've seen with Miami and some other teams, you can have a skilled quarterback. You can have good running backs. You can have skilled wide receivers and tight ends. If the offensive line can't block, it's extremely hard to do anything offensively. Miami's offensive line has got to take a huge step forward in 2020 if they've got any hope, chance, dreams, whatever, of winning this division, maybe getting another 10-win season, whatever the case may be. We'll find out when the season starts. Wide receiver, running back, skill position players, you're literally loaded. The issue is not wide receiver. Wide receiver is not an issue at Miami. I mean, they're going to have fast guys that are tall, that can jump, that can catch, that can run around. They're going to have those guys. Can someone get them the ball? And can the offensive line provide enough time for a quarterback to get them the ball? Those are the questions. I don't have any questions about Miami's wide receivers. I think Miami's wide receivers are good enough to play on probably any team. Would they start over the elite wide receiver somewhere? Maybe not, but they would play anywhere they were at. I mean, these are good wide receivers here at Miami. All right, let's look at the defense now. When I think about the defense, first of all, Miami's defense has not been a problem the last few years. Miami has had a good/great defense several years over the last 4 or 5 years. Every single season going into the next season, the questions for me, at least with Miami, have been on offense. That's not necessarily the case this year. Outside of offensive line, I don't really have any questions about Miami's offense this year. I think it'll be fine. I do have a lot of questions about Miami's defense this year, and it's just because they lose a lot over there. They've had great linebacker play the last few years. A lot of those guys are gone. They lose their best defensive back, their best linebacker. They lose a couple of pieces along the front. Now, like I mentioned, they've recruited well. The talent is there, but we got to see them get out on the field and do it. This will be one of the youngest, least experienced defenses, at least in terms of starts, that Miami has fielded in a while. Now, the good news is you probably have the best pair, duo, tandem, whatever you want to call it, of pass rushers definitely in the ACC, maybe even in all of the Power 5. You get Greg Rousseau back from last year. He had 15 and a half sacks. Unreal, right? Then you get a transfer in from Temple. And before anyone laughs and says, oh, it's Temple, you got to remember, Temple had a really good year last year. One of the reasons why is this guy, Quincy Roach, I think is his name. Did I write this down? He had about 13. Yeah, he had 13 sacks last year. So, yeah, Greg Rousseau and Quincy Roach, between the two of them, had 28 and a half sacks last year. They're going to be hard to stop along that defensive front in terms of a pass rush. You can't double team both of them. So you're going to have to pick your poison type of thing. Miami could have one of the best pass rushes in all of America, hands down. Linebackers, I've got some question marks here. Again, this is a position group at Miami that you haven't had to worry about really in a while, going back to, I guess it was 3 or 4 seasons ago when you started that trio of freshman linebackers led by Shaq Quarterman and those guys. They're all gone now. You got to replace your top linebacker from last year. Like I mentioned, also replacing your top DB. I've got some questions there. Overall, Miami's linebacker grouping or linebacker position loses 99 starts from last year. Whether it's transfer, graduation, or NFL, you lose 99 starts worth of linebackers heading into this season. Hard to replace that. You do get this, what's this guy's name? Zach McCourtis, is that his name? I'm probably saying that wrong. Anyway, he returns, so that's somebody at least you can count on, reliable, you know what you're getting out of him. But some serious questions here. The most question marks I have about a Miami defense in at least 3 years is this year. If the defense can play as well as they've played the last few years and the offense can take a couple of steps forward, particularly along the offensive line, I think Miami can challenge for a division title and a trip to Charlotte to face Clemson in the ACC title game. If the offensive line does not develop, if it's as bad or anywhere close to as bad as what we've seen, particularly last year, and the defense takes a step back due to inexperience, we could be in for another rough year for Miami where you're looking at struggling to make a bowl game. That's just the reality. I think Miami has a high ceiling if everything goes right for them, and I think Miami has a pretty low floor if things go wrong. There's a lot of wiggle room when you look at the possibilities for an overall record for Miami in 2020. All right, let's put the schedule up on the screen now. I'm going to go through it game by game. Going to do my best to try to pick a winner and loser for each one, and I'm going to try to explain to you why it is I think Miami will win or lose each game. All right, here you go. Here's the schedule right here. We're going to go through it game by game like I mentioned. Now, you start the season off with 4 straight non-conference games, 3 on the road, 1 on the road. 3 straight at home, followed up by the 1 on the road, which I think everyone will agree is going to be the most difficult of the 4. But you start things off at home against Temple, a team that had probably their best season a long, long time last season. Can Temple be good again in 2020? Probably. Is it likely they're as good in 2020 as they were in 2019? No. And I think Miami's probably a little bit better. At a minimum, Miami's a little bit better than 2019. It could be they end up being a lot better. We'll find out maybe at the end of this schedule here. But I think you get the win at home against Temple. Miami had to prepare for a huge opening week game last year. If you guys remember the quote-unquote week 0 game where they played Florida to kick things off. Probably the best game Miami played all year, in my opinion, was that Florida game. Defensively, they really held Florida in check. Offensively, they looked pretty good at times. Now, Florida had a pretty good defense, and Miami did have a hard time moving the ball over the course of the game. But generally speaking, go back and look at even if you just look at the final scores, but go back and watch the games. That might have been the best game Miami played all year last year was that week 0 game. They ended up losing. But the point is, they clearly prepared for that game for more than 6 days, which is all you get during the season to prepare for games. I don't see a way Temple comes down to South Beach and gets this win week 1. I'm going with Miami to kick things off at home, 1-0. Then you play something I've literally never heard of before. I've been watching college football for over 30 years. I've had a YouTube channel here where I do nothing but talk about college football for the last 5 or 6 years. I have never heard of this team, ever. Does that mean I don't know anything about football? Probably. Point is, I've never heard of them, though. For that reason alone, I'm picking you to win. If you lose to either of these first 2 teams, in my opinion, here we go again with Miami. You can forget any plans, goals, hopes, or dreams that you had for the season. I don't think that'll happen in the first 2 weeks. You're 2-0. Now you're at home against UAB. Now this game is on a Thursday night. We see weird things happen when games are played during the week. UAB is not the worst lowest classification team you could possibly schedule. They're also not the best. They're in year 2 of a new coaching staff there. I do think this game is more difficult than the first two, even Temple. But I think you get the win. I think you 3-0, a win over UAB on a Thursday night, and that gives you a couple extra days to prepare for your toughest non-con game of the year, without question, on the road at Michigan State in Week 4. Michigan State's another team that was disappointing last year. They had an amazing defense. I don't care what anybody says. If you didn't watch Michigan State play, then you just don't know what you're talking about. Michigan State had an unbelievable defense, and they've had an unbelievable defense for several years. Their offense has been impossible to watch. I mean, it's been one of the worst offenses in the Power 5, it seems like, over the last couple of years. They finally fired Mark D'Antonio, or he quit or resigned. Why is it so hard to figure out if a coach gets fired, resigns? I don't know. There's 100 different, it doesn't matter. Point is, he's not there. So they got a new coaching staff there, too. Shout out Mel Tucker, used to be the DB coach at Georgia under Kirby, then got a job at, Colorado. Was there for a couple of years. Now he gets a shot in the Power 5 at Michigan State. Good luck to Mel Tucker. I wish him nothing but the best unless he plays Georgia for some reason. This is going to be a tough game, though. Michigan State is talented. They're more talented than the first three teams you play. Yes, they had a disappointing season last year, and I don't want to see any Miami fans in the comment section telling me Michigan State was terrible last year. There was no chance they can beat us. You were terrible last year. Miami fan, you were horrible. So, do you want people to tell you that? But Miami's got no chance. They were terrible last year. So don't say it about Michigan State. Yeah, Michigan State was terrible last year. So were you. Somebody's got to win this game, though, also in 2. And it ain't going to be you. I've got Michigan State winning purely because it's a home game for them. I'm taking the home team. If this was in Miami, maybe I pick you to win. I'm not picking you to win here on the road at Michigan State. Chalk went up for the Big Ten. Miami's sitting at 3-1. You come back home, kick things off within the ACC against Pitt. Win. You're 1-0 in the ACC. You're well on your way to your second division title within the ACC. Whee! Yeah, I know. Calm down! Now, so you beat Pitt 4-1. On the road at Wake Forest. On a Friday. How much attention do you pay to college football year in and year out? I don't know. Look at these Friday games. These Thursday, Friday games are weird. I gave you the win week 3 during the week at Thursday. It's at home. But you got to go on the road for this one on Friday. I don't think you're beating Wake Forest. I think you take another loss there. The only reason I'm doing it is because it's on the road on a Friday. That's it. I think you're better than Wake Forest. Newsflash. I thought you were better than Louisiana Tech, Georgia Tech, Duke, and FIU last year, too. Yes, you're better than Wake Forest. Upsets happen all the time. I can find a legitimate reason why I think this game will be one of those upsets. It's because it's on the road on a Friday, and I've seen a lot of weird things happen. Ask Clemson what happened the last time they played in Syracuse on a Friday night. Anyway, it just happens all the time. Happens in the Pac-12. It just happens all the time. I've got you losing your second game on the road to Wake Forest. You can go ahead and start typing now. You're 4-2. That takes you into your bye week. You come out of that, close up the season with 6 straight conference games up first. North Carolina at home. Probably one of the biggest games of the season for Miami, in my opinion. The winner of this game is going to be in pretty good shape, probably, to have a shot at the division. The loser almost has no shot, in my opinion. I've already done a North Carolina version of this video, so this may or may not come as a surprise to you, Hurricane fan, but I have you beating the Fighting Mac Browns at home. You get a win against North Carolina. Now you love me again. Now you got to go on the road and play Virginia. Virginia, still going to have a good defense. Problem is, all of their offense is gone. His name was Bryce Perkins. That was literally all Virginia had offensively last year was Bryce Perkins. And I loved Bryce Perkins. He was a good story last year. I liked watching him play. He's gone. Virginia can't replace that offensively. I've got you winning on the road at Virginia. Rivalry time. Florida State. You beat them last year. You own them. I know. You hate them. They're terrible. They got a new coach. They're almost as disappointing over the last few years as you are. What an amazing game. What happened? Man, the Miami-Florida State game used to be one of the biggest games of the year every single year. Not the case anymore, Jack. This could be a case again where neither team is even ranked. I don't know. I've got you beating Florida State, mainly because Manny Diaz year 2 versus Florida State new coaching staff, Mike Norvell, or whatever the hell, year 1. So I'm giving you another benefit of the doubt here. rivalry games are hard to pick. We see weird, strange, quirky things happen all the time. I'm giving Miami the benefit of the doubt. In this one, it's at home. You beat them in Tallahassee last year. I think you make it, I think you beat them again. Your house this time. You beat the Noles. Congratulations. Now you got to go on the road and play Virginia Tech. I'm going to go ahead and give you a loss there. Yeah, news flash. Virginia Tech is winning this division. Sorry, Miami. Yet another year where you can't get it done. I think Virginia Tech wins your division this year because of this game. I think it's going to come down basically to this game. It's in Virginia Tech. What is it? Blacksburg, whatever the hell. They're going to carry the lunchbox out, enter the Sandman, this, that, and the other. They're going to get the job done. They're going to beat you at home. It's going to be a tough loss for you. Like I said, probably going to cost you the division. This is like basically a playoff game to see who can win the division. It ain't going to be you. Sorry, I've got Virginia Tech getting it done at home. Then you go on the road, play Georgia Tech. Your season will have ended basically the week before. You're going to be upset. You're going to be emotional. You're going to be sad about it. And then Georgia Tech's going to beat you for what, the third year in a row? God, back-to-back road games at Virginia Tech, at Georgia Tech. You lose them both. I don't think Georgia Tech will be a great team this year. They're still a year or so away in terms of recruiting classes to completely turn that roster over, get rid of all those option players and get actual players in there. I don't think they'll be great. I think they'll be better than they were last year. They beat you last year on the road. They're going to beat you this year at home. You drop your second game in a row, losing on the road to the Ramblin' Wreck. Oh man, what a shame. You close things out at home against Duke, win. So that's 4 losses I have for Miami. I already know Miami fans are going to be mad. I already know. I just already know that. Anything short of picking Miami to go 12-0 makes Miami fans mad. But here's the reality of the situation, like I rattled off at the beginning of the video. You've been in the ACC 17 years. You've never won it. You've won your division one time. You have 1 bowl win since 2006. You have 1 10-win season since joining the ACC in 2004. None of that stuff is happening in 2020 in Manny Diaz's second year. I think he needs more time to learn how to be a head coach. You're completely replacing the offensive staff from last year, new offensive line coach, new offensive coordinator, new offensive philosophy, switching from pro style to a spread, which I do think will benefit this year with the addition of DERIQ. I just think your defense is going to let you down at key points this year. Too young, too inexperienced. I just can't be a full 100% believer in Miami this year in terms of winning that division. I think Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and Miami are flip a coin. Either of those 3 teams could win the division. It might be you, Miami. It really might. In my opinion, those are the 3 best teams: North Carolina, Miami, Virginia Tech. I think those are the 3 best teams in your division, okay? I think one of those 3 teams is winning the division. I've got you beating one of those teams and losing one of those teams. I've got Virginia Tech winning the division. Is it possible I'm wrong? Clearly. Of course it's possible I'm wrong. And I don't have any hate for Miami, regardless of what you people think. I don't. I care less. We don't ever play them. I don't care if they go 12-0. The only thing I care about Miami is if they have the unfortunate luck of getting matched up against my Georgia Bulldogs in a bowl game, in which case they would have to get their doo-doo pushed in. But short of that, I've got no hate for Miami. I enjoy several of the Miami video makers that are here on YouTube. Shout out to the Pinecone, T2Y. Shout out Alonzo1219. There's several others. I hate naming people because then I leave somebody out and they get mad. But I'll just be honest, those are the 2 I watch the most. Coach Coop, shout out to him too. I do watch him sometimes too. Anyway, so I consider some of these people my friends. I enjoy their content. I don't hate Miami fans at all. This is my honest prediction. Miami Hurricanes 2020, 8-4. Have a good morning.